Namaskaram. Welcome. Good to see you today. And today, who are we going to talk about or what? Let me showcase with you and share with you one of the most unique persons in the field of Indian dance who repositioned, reinvented, restructured, re-substantiated an ancient form. Bharatanatyam is an established ancient dance form. But if anyone gave it a new body and form in the end of the last century, the credit goes to a failed soloist of the form, Chandralekha. She reinvented herself in the mid-1980s and even bleached her hair white to go against the set description of a traditional Naika, coil-rimmed eyes and dark tresses, longing for her lover. Chandralekha, born in 1928, a Gujarati in Varda, she did not succeed much in initial years of learning and performing Bharatanatyam. Ramana Maharishi was an earlier influence. But in her end years as choreographer, she captured the essence of movement, at once the bindu, the ultimate particle of energy, and its entire cosmic phenomena. She has found the link between the bija, the seed, and the spurta, the sprout. That which is at the same time the acorn and the oak, the kinetic Shakti and the inner Shakta. And she is the thinker who has, in the manner of Agor Panthis of yore, held up the notion of the body, the Sharira, as the only temple of God known to man, the mandalas mapped by the body more potent and immediate than the ones in the cosmos, its muscles and hormones at once charioteers of a dance and the product of a philosophy of extravagant, radical materialism. Chandra's many creative collaborations with John Cage and Billy Clover in the early years and with Suzanne Linke, Reinheld Hoffmann and many others in recent years, the use of one historic construct of the body to demolish another is simply a subversive tool and at best a strategy. It is not meant to take a East versus West position. Even as she has always denied non-Indian influences in her work, unlike Rukmini Devi Arundale, even as a nationalist agenda may be detected in her choreographic representation of the ideas of the Sharira. She has never failed to challenge what Uttara calls a long history of not only patriarchy but also of colonialism as patriarchy and of interculturalism as a revised form of colonialism. It is here that Chandralekha, the closest ideologue with a convincing voice, an abiding belief in naturalism, feminism, continuity and its other phase, creativity, she with the ability to declass herself, reject images, even the most powerful tantra ones, if all they evoked was an effete decorativeness, above all, a woman, an artist, and a contemporary modern mind states a position primarily via her work. She conducts a commando raid on the old idea that classical dance, like paintings, must be pretty, comfortable, and work according to an easily understood code. Not surprisingly, it leaves the old guard gasping for breath. Not only do her dancers look different, without jewels on every inch of their bodies and flower pots on their heads, but they wear their hair in a simple rural single plait instead of the high stacked buns and elaborate coiffures of Bharatanatyam's reigning divas. They are adorned with no makeup and their aharyas, a simple uniform-like costume of dark-colored cotton kanjivaram instead of silk. More than a symbol of her austere de rigueur in dance practice, they are a metaphor for a reproach to the ki rasa, Shringara. Erotic and sensuality are at its heart all right, but there is a Swayambhu quality about Chandralekha's focus on the erotic zones of the body. It is self-contained, able to stand on its own, as if the other was not quite necessary to evoke sensuality. least of all through the props of rustling silk, glittering gold, even rippling plexi muscles. It is, of course, in the choreography, the new language, that she wrests out of the old techniques of Bharatanatyam, that Chandralekha, the ideologue, becomes the archetypical dance practitioner and hence the custodian of a dance style fit for a new age. Who can forget the shock waves she administered to the participants of the first East-West dance encounter in 1984 at Bombay? First, there were interventions during the week-long seminar, beginning with a statement on the material base of dance, rooted in the soil, in the region, in the community, in the society, in the work rhythms, habits and behavior, food patterns and social relations, and in racial characteristics like noses, skin, eyes, hair, a whole lot of accumulations that go by name of culture. Chandra was consciously taking a stand, matching the anti-establishment, radical, up yours way in which she lived with the honesty of her dance beliefs. Then there were unsparing probes into the inner logic of choreography being showcased by some of the reigning prima donnas. To Yamini Krishnamurthy, who had just shown her dancer repeat the same movement in unison, she said, "Yamini, tell us, if 6 Yaminis are dancing exactly the same thing, how does it enhance the show?" What is the rationale for such quantitative statement? Inevitably, it threw into relief the pomposity and double standards of the dance scene. Commenting on the failure of the big names of dance to respond to the contradictions of a changing world, George Leshner, the then director of Max Muller Bhavan, Bombay, whose initiative the encounter was, said, "They continue to dance as if nothing has changed. God has taken on a new dimension of terror. Don't depict him in the old way, depict him including the new way. Or if you don't believe in God anymore, then say so. The question in India now is whether this sacred element is honestly felt and is deep enough to carry on the dance in the next millennium. Either India goes back to the depths of its mythology or is honest enough to admit that we no longer have the temple dancer's view, nor can we live that life. It needs to reflect on the new reality and evolve in appropriate language." This remarkable moment in dance history, never to be repeated with the same validity, the same intellectual vigor and thrust, helped launch the most productive period of Chandralekha's career with a new production almost every year, beginning with Angika a year later. As for the electrifying shock of the first showing of her dance principles in action at the 1984 encounter, this established her primacy in the contemporary dance scene without any equivocation. The startling positioning of her dancers for the first time, front to back and sideways in Navagraha, the ways in which she explored inner energy in Surya Namaskar, the earliest attempt to link dance with yoga, above all, the fantastic kinetic and intellectual dynamics of a duet with Kamadev in the new production, primal energy, performed only that one time, structure around the Linga Ashtakams, showing in dance, terms and Yonilingam, interaction and inspired by Chandra's enduring fascination for a sculpture in Kanchipuram depicting the goddess Kamakshi embracing the lingam, went like a searing hand grenade through the lily-livered world of middle-class morality. While continuity, the core values of Parampara, has remained a cardinal belief with Chandralekha, she has striven in life and especially in dance to throw away the cliches and taboos of culture, even while believing that contemporary realities could be juxtaposed along with traditional concepts, icons and symbols. Thus, within the context of highly controversial 3 exhibition, which he put together for the Festival of India in Moscow, a shrewd co-option of dance, music, practice of the threshold arts like the Rangoli and Alpana, and feminine skills like playing the veena and weaving, Chandra used images such as those of Kali. But this Kali was not just a goddess. She was a symbol of resistance, of the fight against male hegemony and unjust oppression. She was a matrika, harking back to the dark, womb-like, primeval, pre-time, in space in which Shakti roamed the earth and danced on an inert Shiva. And these are the dance images of Sri which have embedded themselves indelibly in our racial memory, with Chandra riding the Nara, the man. The essentially Hindu concept of Ardhanarishwara, the human being, as half man, half woman, was for her more than an art form, popularly seen in dance and sculpture. It was an expression of the gestalt of the ordinary, being as she agonizes over becoming. Her favorite verse sums it up. If they see breasts and long hair coming, they call it woman. If beards and whiskers, they call it man. But look, the self that hovers in between is neither man nor woman. Ramanatha in Devara Dasi Maya. She records her view thus. When women play women, there is a certain level of representation of truism, even a surrender to naturalism. When a man is showing becoming a woman, we are made to see the process of becoming more vividly. Questioned about women becoming men, Chandra dismisses the possibility out of hand. There is no question of women becoming men. That would be denial of creativity. All man can do is to aspire to the state of becoming woman. We are talking of primacy, not equality. It is interesting to note here that the orthodox Hindu view on the third sex, the eunuch, is not pejorative as in most cultures, but supportive of Chandra's belief. According to it, the Atma's migratory sojourns from one life to another are always within the confines of the same sex, except when the male earns the right to progress towards becoming a woman and is accorded the in-between stage of being a eunuch. It is this unfettered intelligence, this awesome power of observation, of making connections and exploring several languages, apart from the one she is known for, that is dance, such as theatre, posters, exhibition, visual texts, witty polemics in defense of the feminist agenda, and the pursuit always of the idea of dance that won Chandralekha countless admirers in the crucial decades of the 80s and the 90s. Like a fox let loose in a chicken coop, she demolished, albeit in a soft, non-abrasive way, the fecund decay, the three ducks on the wall decor of the Mylapore Brahminical dance world, and the submergence of a titanic complexity of ancient Hindu thought under the Philitinism of middle-class, post-colonial India. What began as a fresh look at the dancer's instrument, the body, became by the end of the millennium a well-codified, cleverly articulated philosophy of choreography using the mandalas as that which connects the human being with the sky, the one with the other, the means of the shift of the dance from the temple to the court, of its content from bhakti to shringara, eroticism, of the focus from the abstract divinity of the gods to the concrete divinity of the kings. Then the transformation of the body as a vehicle and victim of moralistic society, from program notes of Angika. Before looking at the ways in which Chandra has worked with the body, inspired by sociology, cultural history, politics, especially of change and resistance, the techniques handed on by tradition, not to mention the karmic palimpsest of sanskaras inherited by the person and noted in the earliest productions such as Angika, it is important to review the development of this philosophy as the underpinning to her entire choreographic work. A concept of classical dance, of architecture, of philosophy, and metaphysics. The mandalas for Chandralekha was more than a movement familiar to most Bharatanatyam dancers, as one restricted to a standing posture or the aramandi, in which the knees and the feet are turned sideways and the waist and head held high in a taut, upright position. To Chandra, it led to an awareness of the body in space, a circuit of energy in which the feet can be said to be holding the earth, an idea to which she has been dedicated through all of her life. As she puts it, In terms of the body, mandala is a holistic concept integrating the human body with itself, with the community and the environment. It generates a centered, tensile, and complex visual form. It is a principle of power, stability, balance, of holding the earth, of squaring and circularizing the body, and breaking the tension and rigidity of the vertical line by a curve. Chandralekha in Women Dance Resistance by Rustam Bhurocha. Elsewhere in the same book, she is continued as saying this inward outward dynamic of the mandala, one spatial movement curving inward, another flowing outward, radiating into expanding circles while intensely held by the bindu, its basic strength. Chandra extends this idea, the word, the concept, through the prism of the dancer, the practitioner, the doer's body, beginning with the revolutionary Tillana, with which she ended her first breakaway choreography, Devadasi, in 1960, and now her last work, Sharira. As those who were present in Bombay that evening knew well, there was reason enough to be shocked. The imagery of the yoni and the lingam surrounds an Indian at every step and street corner. It is therefore in literature, painting, sculpture, and of course in every Hindu temple. But until that moment, no one had dared to visualize these icons through the human body. A mudra here and there, yes, but not this kind of vivid, graphic, and so very artistic depiction of the human genitalia through the bodies of two persons, a male and a female, juxtaposed in such intimacy and with such kinetic power. Responding to the erotic look of the piece and drawing attention to its poet intent instead, Priya Devi, the poet, wrote, "Nothing that Chandra does is ever in bad taste. Nothing she does lacks vitality and a sense of reverence. She returns to the source." But for audiences accustomed to the watershed down flirtatiousness of cinema heroines under the name of minor goddesses, it may be more dangerous. Indeed, forget the green and even the amber. This is red light. The danger that Priya Devi is talking about is the vague sense of menace and unease that confronts some segments of the audience of Chandralekha's work everywhere and at all times. It is the danger of having to face your own sensuality, your own repressed desires and unspoken emotions, in other words, your own sense or lack of it, of the self. Whether it is the primal energy of prana, yantra or mahakal, request concert or sharira, Chandralekha's skill in harnessing creative energy into showing sexuality, the human impulse for intimacy between man and woman, between two women, between two men, even between a cluster of bees and Leelavati, took the choreography beyond mere sexualities. Panchosamo Alikulat, the riddle that Bhaksaracharya, the medieval mathematician, set for his daughter Leelavati, posed the question: if 1/5 of the bees are on the kadam flowers, 1/3 on a shilindhara, the difference multiplied by 3 on the kutaja, one bee alone wanders from flower to flower. What is the total number of bees? Who can forget the sheer beauty of the imagery of the single hasta, Brahmara, literally the bee, created by each of a group of transiently trained dancers, lit in a stream of light at the back of the darkened stage, handiwork, as always, of Sadanand Menon, the technical, lifelong companion, intellectual, and firefighter for Chandra's numerous confrontations with the establishment. Or the magic cast by the dancers in a volley of different groupings and combinations exists in entries, verticals and diagonals, brahmaris, swivels from the torso clockwise and then anti-clockwise, and stretches of the body in levitational chakravakasana from yoga. Or the way this one visual motif of the Brahmaris elaborated by Sujata in solo abhinayas as she creates the exquisite interplay between the bees, the flowers, Leelavati and herself. While the solitary bumblebee dances to the Ektala, the line Panchamuksaha brings in a coquettish trio of dancers to the beat of 3, the Triyamsaha or 1/3. 5 dancers enter the beat of 5 at Vishlesh Shatrigo. No. 6 number enter to the beat of 6. And what about the verse in which we enter the world of swans? Yatam Hamsa Kulasya, or the riddle of the lotuses. Of course, there were dud sequences in some productions. Before Chandra worked on the music, brought in artists like the Gundencha brothers and Aruna Sairam, the music sometimes tended to be monochromatic. But 2 works, Not Guilty, answer some other charges held against her. For instance, that the flood of pastiche, pulp and puerile taboos unleashed on the dance world in the wake of Chandralekha's innovations were caused by her, or that the multitude of thinly disguised imitations of her clusters, drag walks and typical ways of holding the spine are to be laid at her door. If only a dancer was to practice holding the back in the special way that Chandra showed in Sri, the vertical line broken but never collapsed in a weak heap, its curve tautly stretched out from the edge of the torso near the parallel of the floor, the head breaking the horizontal symmetry of the bent knees, and back with a swift, rebellious surge of head thrown upwards, the arms held close to the torso, the whole body communicating an energy level diametrically opposite to the suggestion of a submissive woman. She would know what copying Chandralekha is really all about. The famous drag walk of the 3rd section of Sri, choreographed by Shobna Jaisingh's dancers in London, was by all accounts a killer, putting almost unbearable pressure on the back and well nigh impossible to hold for 5 to 6 minutes on stage. Chandra herself spent hours agonizing over the walk and getting up in the middle of the night to test what she called the extremities of the spine without faking it. As she put it, if you want to say that your backs are broken, it is the vigor of the spine that conveys the message. In Sri, and indeed in all of her choreographies, both literally and metaphorically, it is the spine which is the key to women's search for freedom. She died in December of 2006 in a brief abstract recall of Shakambhari, the earth goddess. She is lying on the floor, her legs suspended in the air. As everything else remains perfectly still, it is the legs which become the life-giving roots that this herb goddess throws up in space, charging everything with life and sculpting space with a ferocious conviction that everything that lives and moves was born of a body. It is from this sarira that the Panchabhutas, the elements of fire, ether, water, air and earth, have emerged, and the images of her legs apart, the yoni wide open to the wonder of her own creation. And if one needs one line to sum up Chandralekha's life, her dance, her choreography, her vision, indeed her being, one would say it is what she said in her walk workshop. We are simply walking towards ourselves.